Hi, everybody. My name is Max Albert. I'm the CEO of appstop.io. We create branded video games for companies that are looking to improve their brand affinity and drive conversions. Up here, we have two of our latest games, Deep Past Jam, which is a top 100 iOS free game. We're actually one of two studios in Michigan history to launch a top 100 iOS free game. So thank you very much. Proud of that. And then our latest game, One Tap Victory Lap, which was a collaboration with Limitless and Madison. So really, really excited to be up here on this panel and pass it over to Abby.
Hi, Abby Bollinger. I work with PMG. We're a digital ad company based in Fort Worth, Texas. I've been with the company for 6 years, touching a lot of different retail clients, including Old Navy, Banana Republic, Gap, and Sephora. I actually went to UT Austin. I have a lot of family in Michigan, so I'm thrilled to be here today.
Hi, I'm Sam Snell, also at PMG, strategist at PMG. I've been at PMG for about 3.5 years. I've touched a whole swath of clients, but currently in the Gap Inc. realm, and just really excited to be here. So thank you for coming and stopping by to hear us talk about disruptive marketing. I'll pass it on.
All right. Hi, I'm Madison. I am the founder of a digital marketing company called Limitless Marketing Management. We're based in San Francisco, but originally started in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Go Blue. Our focus is in paid ads. My background is at Google in the paid ads space, so our expertise is in Google ads, but we do Facebook as well as LinkedIn, website development and SEO and social media, working with large businesses in the automotive industry, cryptocurrency, fashion, and a lot of philanthropic organizations as well. And that's a little bit about me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chase Winovich. I have a lot of exciting news I'd like to tell you about today, but before I get to that, as you can see, I've had the pleasure and the honor of having a whole plethora of different experiences. So I got my start right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Very cloudy there if you've ever been there. I signed with the University of Michigan back in 2014. Spent 4 years there, 5 years there, I guess. And then I got drafted to the New England Patriots. I used to have long blonde hair. Had a dream. Woke up and, they traded me 2 days later. And, I went to the Browns. You can see I was number 69. I was the only one out there with that number. Only one. The people actually voted for that, but we can talk about that later. And so I've had the pleasure of working with Max here on the video game to the left called QB Chase, appropriately named because I chase quarterbacks, so my name is Chase. And on the right, you can see we've got an app called Signet, and in the middle we have another project that I worked on, another company called House 17. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, and I'm your moderator today. My name is Elle Beecher, and during the day I launch new products at Meta, also known as Facebook, and outside of that, I actually built a social club for curious minds. So we meet every single week, if you're in Austin, on Saturday at 8 in the morning, and we walk for 5 miles, and we think out loud together and put all the best topics in a newsletter called Bored and Curious. So if you want to join us, come talk to me after this. But let's start the conversation on disruptive marketing. We're going to be talking about everything from gaming to the creator economy, and we have incredible panelists here to tell you all about it. But before we begin, actually, Chase, you got some really great news yesterday. You want to share with everybody?
Yes. So as they say, Texas forever. We're at a Midwest panel, I'm talking about Texas here, but I agreed to terms with the Houston Texans yesterday, so super excited for myself and my family and my dog, so yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff.
Especially his dog, who's very cute, and he will show you his dog named Zeus, so please come talk to him. All right, now let's kick off the conversation on the topic of video game marketing. So let's imagine that I'm a potential client that has never done video game marketing before. What is it, and why should I do it?
Sure, yeah. So I think the first way I like to start off this conversation is just by saying everybody is a gamer, right? 2/3 of Americans game on mobile every single day. And so that's where your consumers are. So you need to be able to reach your consumers in innovative ways. There's a lot of ways to reach your consumers via gaming, but one of the most innovative ways is just to simply create your own branded game. And I'm just going to paint a picture for you guys. If you're familiar with the product Coca-Cola, it could just be like a little race car that collects Coca-Cola power-ups. Something that is cute and fun and really brings value back to the consumers.
You have something, Sam?
Yeah, I would just add, I mean, that's certainly a great way to answer that, but I think as an avid gamer myself, gaming is a way to escape kind of like reality and find joy and excitement, entertainment. Similar to like movies or going out with friends, it's like an act of finding joy and entertainment. So I think there's certainly a benefit to advertising in such a way that continues to fill that joy in the gaming ecosystem and for the players that play those games. So I think if you can connect that, then there's so much more value that you can gain out of it. And to Max's point, like having a branded game, building branded moments, those are so pivotal in this day and age for marketing, where there's this ad fatigue that's you definitely see across multiple different landscapes within marketing. So,
and then I would also just add, I think a lot of clients, when they think about gamers, they think male first, but actually 80% of female Gen Zers game. So there's a huge female audience to get in front of as well.
And if we talk about culture, when you have games such as Fortnite, you know, they come out with, say, Batman-themed things, and everyone's connecting not only through, you know, these superheroes, but through culture and through this, you know, in-game branded experience. So it's like it really touches a lot of base points, I'd say.
And how do you measure the success of these campaigns?
That's a really great question. At AppStop, we have 5 kind of key metrics of performance. I think the first one is reach. You know, how many eyeballs are we reaching? And then I guess the next 3 are kind of all tied together, which is really the brand lift. And I won't go too into the weeds on that, but you can run qualified studies to measure things of that nature. And then the last one is site traffic. You know, how much actual clicks are we giving back to the brand? Yeah. And then also, you know, just funness. You know, I would say, like, are they leaving great comments on the game?
I also think it depends on how advanced your client is. Kind of have to meet them where they are, but I think the more you can add to your campaign by looking at different types of metrics to really show the value, that can help continue those strategies over time.
One thing I'd add as well is education. Max and I worked on a game for a client of mine, LHM Financial, and they wanted to do what I honestly believe to be the first mortgage video game. So really breaking into the industry, and also a point that anyone can make a game for any industry. And it was just so interesting because that was my kind of break into the space with working with Max and understanding that after people played this game, basically the premise was to understand what kind of content you need in order to get a mortgage, and it's focused on millennial home buyers. And so you would go through the game and basically collect the information you needed in order to get a mortgage. And I believe the number was 85% of people were able to recall the information that they needed far better than before they played the game. So that was just super interesting to get to see that and see such success in terms of education through gaming.
You also needed to collect a few coins, which in this economy is maybe the most important part.
And I'm wondering, let's say Veronica in the audience right here wanted to do a video game marketing campaign today. How long from today to when it launches would that be? We talking months? We talking a year?
So AppStop is really cool. We often leverage low-code technology to speed up game development and make it go super fast. So we've launched games in as quick as 3 months. But, sorry.
I was just going to say, too, like, outside of AppStop, it just kind of depends on what your looking at. If it's something really custom and integrated, something in the metaverse, or if it's like in-app rewarded video, that might be a little bit quicker to stand up.
And so everybody here probably wants to know the lingo in this space. So what is an adver game?
A branded video game and adver game are synonyms. Adver game, I think, it has a really storied history, actually. One of the original blockbuster adver games was a adver game that Chex Mix created called Chex Quest, where you play as Chex Mix characters and you defend the planet from aliens. And it was really successful. It was made in 1998. I was 2 years old at the time, so I didn't get to play. But it won a Golden Effie Award for advertising effectiveness. It was supposedly the talk of the town. But I think there's been a lot of adver game failures since Chex Quest to now. And only recently has branded video games, especially in the metaverse, really taken off. And now it's kind of like, okay, we're going to ditch the connotation of adver game and go more branded video game. So.
Anyone want to add anything?
I mean, I'll just be really quick, but I think an adver game is something that is game related that builds a brand moment. So I think I'll probably use that word a lot, or those two words, but brand moment is so important. And so fulfilling that brand moment within the game is definitely a part of that definition. So.
Following along with the vocabulary on video game marketing, what is intrinsic in-game marketing?
I can take this one. If anybody does, I'll call it regular marketing, but just like marketing in general, because gaming is a little irregular.
Not disruptive marketing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's likened to like native ads. So intrinsic means that there's a seamless, you're seamlessly inserting the ad into the game. So the way I like to think about it is either they don't know that they being the gamers, the player base, they don't know that they're being advertised to, or they don't care. And I think that's where we get to that like intrinsic gaming and advertising.
So would this be like Candy Crush? When you have to buy extra little things, would that be intrinsic in-game marketing?
I'll give you an example of a great Candy Crush intrinsic in-game marketing. In 2022, Prada launched a campaign where they created a new level inside of Candy Crush. It's to help market their new perfume called Candy. There's no like interruptive to the game because you're still playing a match 3 game, you're still matching the candies. But it really drove home what Sam is talking about, this brand moment, and made players fall in love with the brand, fall in love with the fragrance. It actually increased Prada's site traffic by 1,800%, and they sold out of the perfume in 24 hours, 40,000 units, which is a bummer because I really wanted to try it. Didn't get a chance.
Thanks for sharing. And this is a question for everybody. What is your favorite video game marketing campaign last year in 2022?
Should I take? I've been talking
Take
a
it
lot,
away,
but I'll
Max.
take it. My favorite video game marketing campaign in 2022, in fact, in history, is this game made by a clothing company known as Gentle Monster, based out of South Korea. They created a farming simulator game to help market a new handbag. And it's the only branded video game to ever reach #1 on the iOS or Android App Store in any country. It was #1 in South Korea, in Singapore, in Taiwan, in Vietnam, and it stayed that way it stayed on the top 50 list, rather, for 3 months, which is incredible. It reached 155 million eyeballs. The bag did not last 3 months, though. The bag also sold out in 24 hours.
Yeah, I can chime in here. So I play Call of Duty, Warzone, right? That's the name of the game. And I thought they did a brilliant job of integrating the electric Hummer into the game. So in the game, for those that haven't played, you could drive around certain vehicles. And in the game itself, not every vehicle is created equal. Some are fast, some are lighter. This vehicle in particular, it had just enough advantage where you want to drive it. It gave you extra protection, but it wasn't overly powered, so people hated it and despised it in that regard. So yeah, I thought they did a great job of like really trying to like, seamlessly put it in. There was like malls in the game, and they like had it like on a display, so it would like look real nice. I thought that was pretty smart of them.
Well, Max took mine as well because I think that's hands down, honestly, probably the gold standard for advergaming, I would say, just with how impressive the reach they had was. Also included influencer marketing as well. And I just think it's a really great staple for how effective advergaming can be.
Yeah, I was going to say selfishly, my favorite gaming activation from 2022 was a campaign that PMG helped launch for Athleta. This was a really cool campaign that ran across Roblox as well as Livetopia. They partnered with Simone Biles as well as other influencers to just create a really unified strategy, and similarly the results were just really amazing. I think they drove over 400 million impressions, and they launched 28 pieces of influencer content that drove an additional 7 million impressions on top of that. So again, just another really great example of an integrated gaming campaign.
So I'll be the caboose here. I personally really like Fortnite and what they're doing in the gaming space. I think that I use my sister's in the crowd laughing. She also plays Fortnite. I think they're doing a really good job at building these brand moments, but selfishly, I'm going to pick the one last year that I think gives me the most excitement for like where gaming can go. So Epic Games bought Rocket League back in 2019 and has introduced Rocket League season, like a seasonal Rocket League insertion within the game each year since. So the first 2 years, 2020 and 2021, they had essentially what is Rocket League. And Rocket League is like a soccer game with cars, if you don't know what Rocket League is. But they put it in Fortnite and digitized it the way in Fortnite's like own creative style. So it's essentially the same game, just made to look like Fortnite. But in 2022, they actually took the cars, and they can do like flips and all these crazy things. They took the cars and put them into Fortnite. And so it's like kind of like one of the first times where the actual game mechanics from one game is then mirrored over to another game that are totally unrelated. And it gets into this like, hey, Max talked about metaverse, and I like to think metaverse is kind of like a of the times key phrase that is just hip now, but I mean, metaverse has been around for a very long time. And the biggest metaverse like example I like to use is Ready Player One. So I think of the current or the recent Fortnite collab with Rocket League as somewhere where we can go, starting to get into like this oasis like Ready Player One, where you have one avatar and you can play anything that you want, from casinos to skiing to shooter games, like whatever it is. But you have one avatar, and all of these different games exist in the same ecosystem. I think it's really, really cool what they're doing. So, yeah.
If I can chime something in there, Sam, and that's a great point. And something that I learned along the way that really helped me understand. People talk about the metaverse, like as you said, it's kind of a catch-all phrase. But there's a small distinction that if you see it differently, obviously, I'd love your feedback. But there's a little distinction. There's the lowercase metaverse and the capital metaverse. And so when you're talking about a metaverse, it's like you could talk about multiple metaverses that kind of like blend that line. And what you see is that like slowly but surely there's this integration between that avatar and these different games that are like starting to merge into this bigger capital M metaverse.
But Chase, are we living in the metaverse right now? That's my next question to you.
I personally think yes, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, we could have an entire panel on that. But to flip the conversation, yes. I know you just said your favorite video game marketing campaign, but I'd love to hear, in all of your experience, what do marketing agencies get wrong when they attempt to do video game marketing?
I'll take this one. I think maybe trying to go too quickly, or trying to force something. So, like at least at PMG, when we look at activating within the gaming space, obviously Max said it pretty well, like everybody plays video games, but everybody doesn't play the same video game. So I think it's super important to line the message, whether that's brand message or creative message or both, to whatever game and audience that you're looking at. So I think that would be how I would answer that question. But Max, if you want to.
Yeah, may I follow up? And
Yeah, of course.
for me, I think the biggest misnomer I see, at least in branded video game space, is not knowing your target demographic. There's a type of video game, just to Abby's point, for everybody. Gaming is not just Fortnite and Roblox, and it's not just Gen Z, and it's not just men. It is quite literally everybody. It's Wordle, it's chess, it's The Sims. I see so many companies create games in spaces that is a real head scratcher. Like, why are you targeting that demographic of people? One of the reasons, can I just add quickly, one of the reasons why Gentle Garden was so successful is because they created a farming simulator game, which you should know, farming simulators are beloved by women ages 18 through 34 on mobile space. There's 10 million women in South Korea that are looking for a new farming simulator game to play on the iOS store every single day. And they knew that they could tap into that audience with creating that game.
I think going off of that as well, especially with Gentle Garden, where they utilized influencer marketing, understanding which influencer, both in any kind of marketing as well as advergaming, if you do end up using an influencer, is exceptionally important. Because let's say you do know your target demographic and you're looking at an influencer and you're looking at their following and you see, okay, they have 1.2 million. I think I understand what their reach is. The biggest issue that I see with brands that I work with and brands globally is making sure that you pick the right influencer, because you can look at an influencer and think you understand, okay, that's their target demographic. But if you don't ask, you really don't know, and you could be completely wrong. And so that's something, especially when working with my clients, that I make sure that we're gathering that information. I think I have an interesting perspective because I'm an influencer as well. So seeing it from both sides is really helpful, because I can see when brands reach out to me and they don't ask for demographic data, I know immediately whether their product is going to sell through a post of mine or not. It's really, really explicit. And so I think just understanding, if you do know your target audience and you are utilizing influencer marketing in any way, that you make sure you know those demographics so that it turns into sales and not just reach to the wrong people.
And then going back to what Sam said as well, in terms of the answer to intrinsic gaming, it's also really important to think about, does your message make sense to be placed within that game to make sure that the user is having a strong experience and not being driven away from playing that game in the long term.
Have any thoughts, Chase, on what people get wrong?
I'd just say, for me, it's the lack of being genuine. It's like if something isn't genuine, I just think that creates a certain resonance to it. And so that's all I'd have to add.
One of the things I love that you mentioned, Max, is that everybody plays games, and you can make a game for just about everything. I know that you and Chase created a game together for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. Would you mind sharing more about that game and what's next for the future of that game?
Yeah, I'd love to take this question. So I'm super excited to announce that we just put a pretty hefty investment in, and we're totally renovating the game. We're considering different options in terms of the theme, and just really exploring really how to capitalize, expand on not just the 400 million or so American football fans, but ultimately it's like, what are the common themes that unite us all as humans? And we're exploring the different options, different modalities, and we're really excited about the game and fired up about this opportunity. But Max, if you want to add something to that.
Well, I'll just say it's come such a long way. I mean, QB Chase was the very first game that AppStop ever released. This is a game that I literally coded myself, like on weekends while I was working as a software developer for Ford still. Seems like a lifetime ago. Chase's game has tremendous retention, which is one of the most important parts about mobile. It has a 51% day one retention, which opened up a lot of opportunities for us for increased investment, and we're really excited to explore it in the future.
Can I ask you a follow-up?
Of course, you may. It will cost you, though.
Okay.
$25.
How do you drive retention in a video game? What are the levers there?
This is something that we talked about, and Max, obviously, I'm sure you have a more nuanced approach. But as somebody that there's certain frameworks that it doesn't matter if you're talking about video games, you're talking about marketing, you're talking about building a company. It's like there's certain analogies, or football. It's like, what is your approach? And ultimately, there's other people that have thought about these same sort of problems. It's like, how do you manage retention? And so it's like, well, what games are, keeping your attention? So it's like when you go look at those games, it's like, well, what are they doing? Like, what is the actual elements that they're doing that is like facilitating this? And so if we're able to look at those things and extract those and implement them into our game effectively, then in theory, if we extract the right things, that we'll have those same elements, and ideally we'll be successful in that regard. And it certainly was. It's interesting balance trying to be a marketer and a football player. It's like there's a tribal aspect to all this stuff, and there's a lot of envy just in the space as well. But the game itself was super successful, and it just was a lot of fun.
I would say that the best way to drive retention is paid actors. Just paying a bunch of people to keep playing it, I think. I'm just kidding. It's all real. It's all genuine. I think the most important thing, how AppStop thinks about it, is there's certain game mechanics that you can include, and you've all seen these, to like facilitate increased retention. That's like your daily rewards, those types of things. But I think if you don't have a really amazing core game loop, like the solid foundation, it's not going to matter. So we spent 6 months across 300 beta testers, like really making sure that Chase's core game loop was wildly fun, and it is. So that's the most important part.
Awesome. And you said you play Call of Duty, right?
I do.
What brings you coming back to Call of Duty?
And this goes back to the point that I was going to add with that. I'm really actually happy that you asked that question. When it comes to the QB Chase 2, or, we've been thinking about exploring different themes. Like I said earlier, it's like American football covers 400 million people. And serendipitously, I was out in Hawaii last week for the NFLPA meeting. And there was like an hour-long car ride, and my dad's, I was asking about the game, just picking his brain. And he's just like, well, what are things that, like, every human on earth share in common that you could attract to this wider audience? And it was like, that's it. Like, we're all humans. It's like, and I think, going along with that, it's like just what draws me is that, we have a rich history of being human. And, we're thinking about the future of it. It's like, to your point, it's like drawing upon that history and ultimately, being human. There's certain things that are deep inside of our core. And one of those things is the need for a community. And, I just think that my relationships with my friends, they play Call of Duty, and so they get on, and so it's like, it draws me, and it's like, okay, I want to spend time with them. I want to share that bond through this common mission to be successful, specifically in Warzone, where it's a battle royale themed, so you have 150 people, and only one team is going to win. But going back to my point about QB Chase 2, and this is the last thing I'll say about that, is that we really want to combine that community aspect. Share some of that prize pool with the actual people and allow them to form, like, whether it's hunting groups or groups of people, and to really try to facilitate that with our next rendition.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Chase. And I know, Madison, you and Max worked together to launch a game for the mortgage company, but you're back at it again for another game for Be Kind. Would you mind telling us about it?
Yeah, so we're working on a game, actually, and Max may be best to kind of discuss a little bit more about the charity, but it's a charitable video game that actually I will be the influencer who is promoting the game. So from a different side, it's really interesting to get to work from both angles. But it's been really fun to get to see what it's like on both sides, as both the brand, but then also as an influencer. And I think just working with philanthropic organizations is something that I'm really passionate about. So being able to kind of combine those two areas of, I guess, 3 or more areas of my life is really great. But I'll turn to Max to describe a little bit more about the charity and what the game entails.
Yeah, fantastic. Be Kind is really incredible, founded by an incredible founder in Hill Basecombe. It's a 501c3 that has spent the past 2 years developing a token for the mobile stores called Thanks. And Thanks has two really big competitive advantages when you're donating to charity. Number one is it's tax deductible. And number two is, and most people don't know this, when you make an in-app purchase on the iOS and Android app stores, Google and Apple take 30%. But because Hill was able to work with Apple, which is a painstaking process, he was able to get that waived. So now your entire donation is really going to one of his 32,000 partner charities. I was actually able to make a donation to BCRF this way through his app. And now we're developing an advert game and a branded video game for him. And I think what's really cool about working with the likes of Be Kind and BCRF is understanding that we're doing something good, but also these philanthropies need marketing as well. And there's, branded video game elements in each of these.
Sam and Abby, I know that you recently worked with a large retailer who shall remain anonymous on a video game marketing campaign. Can you share how the launch went, how the process was, and any learnings from that?
Yeah, I can kick it off. I think it went really well. It was one of their strongest activations of the quarter, for sure. I think when we were thinking about the strategy, we just made sure that we were really leading with the message and the audience to make sure it was a really strong fit and a good experience for the users of the game. And then we really thought through measurement from the start to make sure, even if this wasn't the largest, most integrated campaign ever, that we're thinking through how we can prove out success so that maybe we can do that next time and do something bigger like the athletic campaign. And I think that's really important to meet clients where they are, to not exclude them from the gaming space and try to give them a taste of it so that they can lean in further going forward in their strategies.
Yeah, test. Okay. Yeah, I think you said it great. Obviously, we want to look at brand message again and make sure that that's aligned in our strategy. We took an approach that was, and Abby touched on this, but very crawl, walk, run. And so we're still obviously learning where we want to go with the brand and what we do. And we have some really big ideas for 2023. But Abby, you said it really great. And I think we're really excited for 2023 and some of the stuff that we have on the table. So
I would also add, too, I think it's really important to be really thorough in how we're vetting partners. There's so many different partners in the gaming space, and a lot of them are pretty nascent. So that's something we took really seriously from the start. And then throughout the campaign, we were able to optimize over time.
And out of curiosity, what do you think is stopping bigger brands from doing this kind of marketing?
It's not. Just to name a few, brands that have created their own branded video games for mobile alone. It's Wendy's, KFC, Chipotle, Banana Boat. I know in the metaverse, Intuit just released a new Roblox game, which is the second largest branded video game ever released by GameFam, by the way, which is another true blue Michigan founder. We have to bring him to the Midwest House next year, I think. Brands are on this. They're on this.
I would say I think some small and mid-tier brands might have some fear around entering the space just due to a lack of education, going back to the audience component of thinking the audience isn't there, or thinking about video games as a console and not thinking about Wordle or Candy Crush or things like that. So I think there is a little bit of an education component to it as well.
I think it's also just becoming more and more prevalent to people outside of just the specific large business space, which makes it so that there are smaller companies who maybe don't have that integrated into their marketing budgets yet. And so that's always a conversation of, okay, here's this idea, we don't have the budget for it allocated yet. And then understanding that, so then when you move forward, maybe next year they do have the allocation.
Yeah, just to build on to that too, we were at the Brand Innovators event yesterday, and Coke was talking about one of their gaming activations, and Madison and I went up afterwards to ask some questions about were there any roadblocks you faced starting to activate this campaign or trying to launch it, getting buy-in internally, anything like that? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. I actually pitched this 4 years ago and got a hard no. Sometimes you have to just keep coming back and trying again.
And building off your point, Madison, back when I used to work at sales at Facebook, one of the questions I'd always get was like, what is it going to cost us? So for doing a video game marketing campaign, tell me about the prices that you guys see. What's the range?
Pass.
You can't pass. You're building them.
I think it can vary. I'm not going to put any hard dollars behind it too, but I mean it can go in the 5-figure range probably if you wanted to. Very small, but you can go. I mean, if you're doing something custom, it can be quite expensive. So I think to the point that's kind of like the general theme of the last few questions is as the gaming space gains more knowledge just in general across marketers, it'll be a lot easier to enter just based on the success of other brands. So I think there's a lot of big brands out there that are paving the way, and I applaud them for that. Like, keep doing that and doing it the right way. And you'll see some of these mid-tier and smaller tier brands start to pick up and hopefully allocate more budget towards the gaming space, because I think it really is like a golden age of marketing. It's a new frontier, and it's a really great opportunity for brands to get a unique brand moment. There it is again, with the player base. So,
and just to add to that, I don't know if I can say this, but I would say my opinion of AppStop is you guys are doing a really great job of making it easy for advertisers to enter the space. But again, I think it just depends on how you're thinking about it. Are you thinking about your gaming activation as just like an integration with Roblox, or are you thinking about it as a unified strategy and how you're going to support that message with other channels like YouTube or anything else?
Yeah. Thank you for the compliment, Abby. Appreciate it. I was just going to add to that. I mean, everything that they said is absolutely correct, especially the part about me and how great we're doing. But I would say one of the cool things about AppStop, just bringing it back to low code, is exactly what Sam said. Chex Quest back in 1998 cost $500,000 just to create V1 of the app. And literally, if you talk to many AAA game studios today to try to build you a branded game, they say, we won't get out of bed for less than that. But with the invention of low code, now you are starting to see some branded video games reach the top 100 list with a 5-figure activation, which is allowing more brands to get into the game. And I do think that's really exciting.
Speaking of the top 100 list, I know, Max, you've had a couple of your apps hit the top 100. How did you do it?
I mean, I'll tell you this. There's a lot of ways to not get to the top 100 list. There's about 4 ways that work, and I'll just quickly go over it really, really fast. Number 1 is influencer marketing, and that's a lot of what AppStop does. All of our games that have landed on the top 100 list have been the product of starring influencers. Another channel that really works is organic growth, word of mouth, on Reddit, Twitter, in pubs, at South by. I'd say a third channel is paid, maybe programmatic, what have you. But I think this channel isn't really great for smaller game studios like myself. I tend to see you need a lot of capital to use this channel to get to the top 100 list. And then lastly, this is interesting, the last channel is licensing. So getting like a Hello Kitty or a Star Wars deal on it is really effective to get to the top 100 list.
To what you said about influencers, I think that's super important to think about because, and I'll go back to Fortnite. Fortnite's first collaboration was actually with YouTube creators using influencer marketing to push their game back before it was ever popular. Fortnite, frankly, didn't even become popular until they had their Battle Royale. So there was a game mode that was predominant before they even made Battle Royale. It was like a zombie survival game. And they used YouTube collaborators and creators to push the game and then develop the Battle Royale, and then it's become what it is today. But I think it's super important to think about the 4 aspects that you just mentioned, especially influencer marketing, because it can be so impactful.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything. It's grown 26% since iOS 14.5 came out, and I don't think those things are totally related. Very, very lucky I'm friends with Chase and Madison. Let me just tell you that right now.
I second that. Especially Madison.
So we've heard the words influencer marketing bounce around a couple of times. I know we've got 2 influencers right next to me. So I'd love to hear from Madison and Chase on why is influencer marketing so important right now? And how can brands leverage it?
I mean, it's huge. I just think looking at some, especially if we look to TikTok, right? How quickly influencers grow and become personas that people want to follow. And let's take Alex Earl, if anyone's familiar with the TikToker. The following that she has received in such a short period of time, everyone wants her hair color, everyone wants her clothes, everyone wants to know what she's buying on Amazon, where she's getting her nails, everything. And so I think that kind of following and that kind of reach is really where most brands are going now, because they just can't reach the same amount of people as an influencer with that level of popularity can. And so I think it's just become so important in this day and age. And we mentioned community too, and I think that's a big part for both brands and influencers as well, is just the community that's drawn to both of those. And I think that's why brands want to work with influencers, is that level of reach and that level of community, and associating themselves with the right influencers that promote the right message for their brand.
Yeah, I mentioned this word earlier. For me, it's a matter of being genuine. You know, I've had the opportunity to kind of work on a couple different sides of the spectrum, working for products that I didn't necessarily, stand by. Sometimes you have to, learn through experience. You know, it's like it could be tempting as a influencer or someone in this position to work with companies that maybe their mission as a company, or just like the ingredients that they're putting in these products. It's like, would I want my kid to use this theoretically? Would I want my family to use this? And it's like, well, you're presented with this check. So I just think that ultimately at the end of the day, it's like if those feelings are harbored inside, that it creates a certain resonance. I tend to look at things in that regard, where it's like if I feel a certain way and I have to post and share this thing, it's like I think people are getting, I don't want to say getting smarter, but are hip to the fact that people are in this position where they're being paid to promote things that they may not necessarily even really understand or agree with. And I think that influencers are important, going back to your original point, because it's like they're in that position where they've garnered this trust with their community. And being able to to access that community that they essentially gatekeep in a way through this opportunity to work with them is something that makes them really effective at just being able to promote brands and get these companies or get these people behind their companies.
I think that's just such a good point. Genuineness is so important, and you see how quickly brands and influencers fall when they're not genuine, and so. That's why it's important, obviously, for brands to work with influencers who they do believe are genuine and who do actually like the product or use the product even before they're asked to promote it, because people see through that. And I think for me, especially on the influencer side, I'm very cautious now, and it's a learning curve, because like Chase was saying, it can look really shiny when someone's offering you X thousands of dollars to post about a brand, but it's really important to understand that that's also a representation of you. And so determining, okay, what are my values and what do I want to portray, and does the brand match with that? And if not, for me personally, it doesn't matter how much money they're willing to throw at me. If I have a problem with the brand, if it's not super diverse, or maybe some people are focused on eco-conscious brands, I won't work with the brand personally. And I think that's something that a lot of influencers really need to focus on, and then brands need to focus on who they're working with to make sure that it's genuine.
And so I think we have about 10 or 15 minutes left, so I'd love to open it up to questions if anyone has any. But while you're thinking of your question, I have one last one for everybody on the panel. If there's one thing that you'd want the people who came here today to walk away with, what would it be?
I think it's just to make sure that it's whatever you're doing is aligned and meaningful to what you're activating. So the most important thing, I think there's a connection between kind of what we've been talking about in influencer marketing, what we've been talking about in gaming, is the alignment to the message and being genuine. If you're disingenuine, it's not going to work very well for you, and it can really implode for the gaming side. Like, if you have something that's not genuine, it can immediately destroy the player base. It can have a bad taste for the brand. And on the other side, you can grow the player base and have an amazing experience, in the same way with influencer marketing. So I think being genuine is so important across everything that you do within marketing. So that's what I would leave you with.
Yeah, I would agree with Sam. I would say gaming is a newer space that advertisers are entering, and consumers in general are annoyed with ads in a lot of ways, especially on the open web right now. So I think if we can continue to be really thoughtful about the placement of our ads, then that can continue to be a safe and successful place for our advertisers for the long haul.
Wow, great minds think alike. We it's very similar veins. I mean, but I'll say more specifically to AppStop, because we're able to partner directly with brands, we don't have in our games interstitial ads, like we're talking about, the interruptive ads that people hate. It's the most hated part about the mobile gaming experience. And my favorite part about releasing a new game is seeing all the comments, all the 5-star reviews saying, "Yay, I get to play a really fun game with no ads." Like, that's kind of the moments that we're trying to create for our consumers.
Yeah, I'd just say, I'm not going to touch on being genuine for the third time, so I'll say to you that. I just say, in addition to be genuine, just be bold. Be comfortable. If you're an influencer, obviously you're going to have to just share your story, and that's going to require some vulnerability. And on the second hand, I'd say if you're a brand, you need to be bold as well, because it's like, what is cool, right? It's like you're doing what everybody else is doing. You're not hip. You're not different. And if you're too far out of that, then you're just kind of weird, and so you have a different connotation. So finding that sweet spot, being bold, being genuine, those are my biggest takeaways.
I think, too, just having a cohesive strategy across your entire marketing funnel, like what you're doing on paid, what you're doing on Google search matches what your vibe is or what you're portraying on social, and making sure that the message that you want out there is genuine and focuses on what it is that you want people to know about your business and your brand. And I think that all ties into what kind of ad game are you creating, what kind of influencer are you working with, and how does that tie into your brand persona, and just making sure everything flows.
All right, does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question about the marketing brief that you guys receive from XYZ brand. How does that look like? What type of inputs are you looking to make a successful game from a client?
I would say for our clients at PMG, on the client side, we want them to give us thorough information about the product set and the audiences they're trying to reach with each. Typically, they'll give us really broad stroking general audiences, and then we can take it from there and RFP a large set of partners to make sure that we're really thoroughly vetting and making sure that whatever we're recommending is content led, and again, just aligns with the audience. I don't know if that answers your question though.
There's a lot of questions in the audience. Wow.
Yeah, so my question is, are these games just one-time activations? Do brands want to update the game? Because, once it's out, you can always update with new content. What do brands look for?
Yeah, that's a great question. At this current time, AppStop has only ever done one-time deals, and these activations typically take 3 to 6 months to create the game, and then they're on the store for 3 months. Gentle Garden was that structure as well, where it was on the store for 3 months, then they took it down. But I think there's a strong use case for a brand just perpetually every quarter putting more money, updating the product set in the game. I think we're going to see a lot more of that going forward.
And then I would say for our PMG clients, the goal is that it's an ongoing strategy that we build on and we get more innovative with over time. That's generally what we've seen is once clients start, they become more comfortable and they continue building on that. I think like in-app gaming is a big part of what we've done, but there's also AR gaming. There's a lot of different ways to enter the gaming space.
No, there's not. It's just mobile. Don't listen to her.
So sorry.
It's all good.
Any other questions? Oh, we got some.
Hello, my name is Eric Davis. Our company is Last Mile Cafe. We're a coffee brand. So we haven't put like any paid money into marketing yet, but we do a lot like around community. So like supporting local nonprofits. We cater to coffee for like this event, but we don't have like a big marketing budget. So we're trying to grow our online sales next. And I'm trying to figure out, like, you know, obviously I'm not writing any of you a six-figure check anytime soon, but what can we do to help grow our online sales?
I'll take this. I think that there's obviously a certain threshold, right, of having a marketing budget and where do you want to spend and do I have enough money to be spending on Google or Facebook or LinkedIn or should I be doing social? Honestly, is one of the questions that I get all the time. And the answer really depends on how strategic you are with setting up your campaigns, especially for paid. Some platforms are more expensive than others. LinkedIn, for example, typically tends to be a more expensive platform in terms of the leads you're getting. But LinkedIn isn't right for everyone. And so I think in my perspective, both on a organic social side, continuing to build your community, looking at something like TikTok, where the reach that you can get with some of the small businesses I've seen who went from minimum dollars coming in to we've sold out of everything and we literally can't keep up. If you have someone who's willing to invest the time, it does take a lot of time and not every video goes viral. Or else I'd be very, very, very rich. I wish that was the case. But I think focusing on an organic growth presence and then moving in with extra dollars into the paid space for businesses specifically, especially coffee, food and beverage, local campaigns, so Google searches, best coffee near me, and that's when it gets into the weeds of the strategy, right, is who you're working with, how can they make sure that those keywords are cheap enough for you to be able to reach people, and that gets into the weeds of the strategy. But I would say social as much as you can, especially if you don't have unlimited budget, is just such an amazing way for marketing, and then moving slowly into specifically for food and beverage. I think Google's probably your best bet, in my opinion.
I could maybe speak a little bit, like, almost anti to your question. Creating advergames in general is activation that gets better at scale. I think there's other ways to get into the gaming space that are better for local or smaller companies that don't have the biggest budget. But I know with Metaverse and also creating games for the iOS and Android store, you really do need to be competing for the top 100 list or top 10 like most popular Roblox games. If you're not there, you're not getting the organic growth of the players. So it means that you do have to be running a national campaign and have a big budget.
Yeah, I was like, should I say it, should I not? I would just add that I know the space is so complex, and so I like worry that small businesses just don't do anything because they're so overwhelmed. So I would say just do something, like anything will help your business.
I would say, if I could add something to that as an influencer myself. What's your name again, brother? Eric. Okay. If I could add one thing, I would say we're at a very unique time where you can message anybody in the world just through your account. And there's, maybe a numbers game. Not everybody's going to answer you. However, if you don't want to spend money necessarily on marketing, but you realize, listen, if I send this individual coffee and the coffee that you're making is either, is tied to a mission statement, right? And they align with that mission, then I think they'll be more likely to share your product on their socials. It's like, hey, look at this coffee. Not only is it, mold free, but it's also supporting, this, and this. I think that's an avenue, like as an influencer myself, it's like, yeah, here's my address. I'll take free coffee. Just
to add a little bit to, like if you're interested in doing like gaming marketing, there are rich media gamified units that you can leverage, and you could do it on like a geo target. So keep it centric to like where you're at, and that smaller budget would actually go a long way. So that's another way that you could kind of leverage some of these bigger strategies that you see agencies and big brands do, while keeping it like on your scale. And then you can scale that, you know, if it's very successful, and build and grow that. So that's another way you could do that.
I just have one final point on the influencer marketing side, because it's really interesting. I feel like I get asked a lot, like, what kinds of influencers should I be reaching out to? How many followers do they have to have? And I think looking at engagement is actually your most important cue as to whether or not they're the right influencer to reach out to. You're not going to know everything, because unless you're working directly with them and you have their data, you won't be able to know 100% of what's going on. But I would say it might not be too small of an influencer. I see a lot of the times brands miss out on influencers with exceptional engagement, and maybe they have 15,000 followers, but they're in your area and they have hundreds of comments on their posts and people are buying what they're selling, as opposed to an influencer with 1.2 million who really actually won't do your business any justice. So I would say be open-minded.
And not only that, if they're at 1.2 million, et cetera, like if you're talking a bigger influencer, they might be looking for a bigger bag, just the truth of the matter. But when you're talking about like athletes, and like I said, really tying it to that mission, you know, like what is it that your company's about? What do you guys stand for? And finding people that are like-minded, like I said, I think you'll find that, people are looking for a higher purpose. People are not just looking for cash. And it's like, if they're in that position, there's a good chance they already have lots of money anyways, so.
Thanks. I do have a bit of a shameless plug. I do work for Niantic, and we make a little game called Pokemon Go. And we do have a small, medium business offering for sponsored locations for small, medium business. We can talk afterwards. So anyway, I did want to ask, Abby, you mentioned vetting vendors for the gaming space. And yeah, I'm specifically working on standing up our sponsored and ad programs within our game slate, Pokemon Go and others. If you could just speak a little bit more to how you're vetting vendors, what are you looking for? Is it measurement? Is it the audience targeting? Like what are the features of a gaming integration that you're really, keen to see?
For us at PMG, knowing Sam and I are on the programmatic team, I think it really comes down to integrations, because we run our campaigns on omni-channel DSPs so that we can have more holistic measurement that's consistent across our partner set. So I would say that's a really big piece. And then the other piece is cost, just in terms of like the efficiency of the CPMs or whatever other metric we're looking at. I think a lot of gaming partners or even video partners, if you heard about how high the Netflix CPMs were when they came into the market, a lot of new partners, they try to start really high, and cost efficiencies are really important for our advertiser set, especially across this year. So I would say those are probably the main two things, is consistency of measurement by using our omni-channel DSPs and games being willing to integrate there, and then cost efficiencies.
I'll just add briefly, because I know we're probably at time, and everyone's cold. Me too. I think also engagement's a big player on that one for us. I think a lot of the stuff that we're doing in gaming is higher funnel, so we want to be focusing on like, what does that engagement look like? How much are we paying to get it, and is that engagement like valuable? And I heard something on a panel yesterday. It was a earned versus paid type situation, and I think that resonated really well with me. I think we're trying to earn in the gaming space our views and our engagements, so I think it's very important to try to optimize to that. So
I'll add really quickly, fun tidbit about AppStop. The lead game designer of Deep Past Jam now works on a little game called Pokemon Go too. So we love Niantic here at AppStop.
All right, I think that's all we have time for today. So thanks so much for coming, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. And feel free to stay around and mingle and chat with us afterwards.